Good morning and welcome back to Miniature Monday on Gaming with ADHD. Today we are continuing our look at Dystopian Wars, and this time I'm actually going to show off some painted models that I did with the Kongo Battlefleet that was sent to me by War Cradle Studios. Now, the reason that I am showing this off is because I took a look at the instructions that they presented on their website for painting the heavy cruiser, and I got a little overwhelmed. So I came up with a paint job that I think works, and I want to show it off. But before we get started, do make sure that you are subscribed to the channel and that you are following along, because I cover all sorts of things concerning tabletop gaming, whether it's miniatures games, board games, card games. I like talking about all of it, and I like showing these things off to all of you. So absolutely make sure you're subscribed so that you don't miss any future content. So first thing I want to do is I actually want to look at the instructions that War Cradle provided for painting the Kongo fleet. The reason I want to show these off is because while I think they did a fantastic job, when I started looking at it, I was getting overwhelmed. Basically, they start with a layer of black, and then they start moving into airbrushing. Now, airbrushing is a fantastic way to get models painted. I have absolutely no issues with airbrushing, but for me, while I do have an airbrush, I just get frustrated with the setup, the cleanup, trying to get it to work right. It's a single action airbrush, so it is a bit more limited, but it is something that, while I know it's useful, it's just not something that I enjoy getting out. So, they start going into also a lot of mixing. It's not just take the paint and use it. It's, okay, now we have to do a 50-50 mix, or a 75-25 mix, or, start adding some extra paint. And I just kept getting frustrated the more and more that I scrolled down. Now, real quick, they do some fantastic things with the weathering on this ship. Rust from being at sea. They really do a fantastic job with the paint on this model. So don't get me wrong, I am not trying to talk down about the job that they did, but I know where my limits are, and I know what's going to frustrate me as a gamer and somebody with ADHD. I know where my limits are, where I'm going to get frustrated, and honestly, trying to replicate this paint job, it just wasn't going to happen. So, in the end, I think they did a fantastic job. Like I said, I like the weathering, I like the detail, the colors that they picked out were absolutely fantastic. To me, it kind of has what I'm calling a Statue of Liberty look, the oxidized copper. And, I wanted to be able to reproduce it myself, but not have to do, in this case, they do 20 steps just to get from the base model to, where it is right here. So, again, with the knowledge that I am not a professional, I don't even pretend to be one on my YouTube channel, let's take a look at the steps that I used in order to make this work. All right. So, first off, I should backtrack to a list of my materials. So, these are all of the colors that I used. I used paints from Army Painter, Vallejo, and Reaper. Basically, to me, it ends up being what I have, as opposed to wanting a particular brand. Personally, I do prefer Reaper paints. I have a majority of those in my collection, but when I need a particular color, if Army Painter is what's available, that's what I'm going to pick. Because usually I just want to go to the store, get a bottle of paint, and go home. I don't want to have to order it, wait a few days, and then get on with my project. So I used about 5 or 6 paints from Army Painter, and that does include a couple of paints that aren't listed here because I used them for the SRS tokens. I used a couple from Vallejo and about 3 or 4 from Reaper. Now, a couple of additional tools that I want to point out. Number 1, popsicle sticks. I will show you where these are going to be super useful in a bit. And then also Elmer's white glue. I realize that this is washable clear glue. However, I'm showing it because basically this is a full bottle and I really don't like it for its intended purpose. But I also have to use it up. So basically I'm just showing it, give you the idea. Elmer's white PVA glue, exactly what you need. All right, so first off, after building all the models, I hit them all with a primer. I use Sandable Auto Primer. In this case, I pick it up at O'Reilly Auto Parts here in Arizona. So if you have an O'Reilly near you, then this will work. If you live elsewhere and have to get something else, this is what I use. It's less than $10 a can and a lot easier. Well, I'm cheap. I'd rather do this than pay, $20 or more for official, Army Painter or Games Workshop primer. This stuff works just fine for me. No big deal. And I just realized I need to move my picture, so just a moment. All right, we're going to put me right there. Okay. So, to get started, I went with a Army Painter Angel Green base. I basically painted the entire model, just all the nooks, all the crannies, just got all of it with this our Angel Green base coat. I then went with Army Painter Scaly Hide. I liked it because it kind of has like this kind of like zombie flesh kind of look to it, kind of a grayish green. And I did a heavy dry brush. I wanted to get most of the surface areas, but I didn't want to get the crevices, the ports, things like that. Just anything that was recessed, I wanted to leave that the dark gray or the dark green, but I wanted to hit pretty much everything that I could. And then once I had that all done, I used the Army Painter Military Shader Wash to then darken that just a little bit. And I think it came out really well. It's not quite the bright oxidized copper look that War Cradle used, but I think it's close enough, so we went with it. All right, the next step was painting the deck boards. What I try to do when I'm painting is paint from the lowest level, working my way up. And basically that's so if I make a goof somewhere, it's a lot easier to just work at something that I'm not having to, to get around other pieces on. Basically just, correct as I go up the model. So I used Vallejo Khaki for this, and as you can see in the pictures, it's pretty bright. It almost looks like kind of fresh cut lumber, so it doesn't look like it's been out to sea or had any weathering done to it. But I'll fix that, here in just a little bit. Now, the first level of trim, I used Reaper Clotted Red for all of those red parts of the ship. The nose here in the front of the battleship, the rings around the guns on both the cruisers and the escorts. You can also see my SRS tokens there in the back. The first layer for that, I used a Reaper sample paint. So I don't even know what the color is or if I could ever get any more. So we'll see what I end up doing for SRS tokens here in the future. But I'll get into a little more detail about what I did for them here shortly. All right, the next level was all the piping, the guns, and the vents, and I hit that with Reaper Tarnished Steel. The sort of vent-looking things on the side of the battleship and the cruisers, I did go back with, I believe it was Vallejo Dark Gray, painted that, and then did a dry brush on it. basically just hit anything that was going to have kind of that silver metallic look. Just did a normal paint job over those. Then the next step was to go back with the trim with Vallejo Brass. Now this, basically I hit all of the ports, the tops of the gun batteries on the side. I used basically any of the details. I pretty much copied what they had done, and just used the brass on that. But it's obviously really bright. Again, doesn't have that weathering, doesn't have that out to sea look for it. For all of the other bits, for the turrets, for the generators, for the cheetah automata, I'm going to keep messing that up every time I try to say it. So this is where the popsicle sticks and the Elmer's glue come into play. Now, the reason I was complaining so much about the clear glue is when I was trying to paint these, they kept popping off. The clear glue sort of has kind of like this gel consistency to it. And honestly, for this purpose, it doesn't work very well. I ended up going back and using some of my super glue to hold them in place, but that ends up holding a little too well, so I didn't like using that. I got the trick for the Elmer's white glue back when I was a lot more active playing Flames of War, and that was what was suggested to me to paint infantry, because it would hold them very well, and then you could just pop them off and put them on the base, and and then build up your base around it. So essentially that's what I'm doing here, even though the clear glue doesn't work as well. But regardless, it's a great tip, so that way all of these tiny bits that you can't normally hold on to, you have something that you can hold, and you can get around, and not have to worry about messing up the paint jobs because you're trying to hold it with your fingers. The automata, I used the Reaper Clotted Red, the black, some black, and then just the tarnished steel for a dry brush over the whole thing. For the generators, those were the tarnished steel and the brass. Now, the SRS tokens, again, I used that Reaper Blue sample paint. I then hit a dry brush of Brain Matter Beige for the crests of the waves, and then also I used that for the planes. I wanted them to have sort of the same kind of a look that we normally associate with the Zero from World War II. So I used that. I realized I didn't put a whole lot of detail into those, but what I ended up doing was just a Army Painter blue tone ink, and then sort of washed that around the surface of the token. And then I used Vallejo Sky Blue for the canopies on the cockpits. They came out okay. I painted the ring of the base black and, called it good. All right. Finally, I came in and hit all of the metal and the deck boards with the Army Painter Strong Tone wash. Honestly, that is my absolute favorite wash. It works in so many cases, and I basically just hit all of this with that wash, and it darkened it up, gave it a little bit of a weathering look. If you look at the deck boards, they all darkened up really nice, so it actually looks like the ship has been out to sea. And overall, I really enjoyed, how they came out. To be honest with you, I actually really enjoyed painting these models. I've been doing some painting lately, and I've been doing a lot of BattleTech, but these were a very happy distraction from that particular project. And I like how it's not too compact. It's very easy to get into places, to work with it, to paint details, but not having to worry about messing things up. Overall, you know, I think War Cradle did a fantastic job with this particular fleet. I am currently working on painting the Koenig fleet. That one's a little bit tougher for me, but this one, maybe it's because it was the first time I'd painted these. Regardless, it was an absolute treat, and I am absolutely looking forward to picking up some more of the Kongo ships to finish out that fleet, get it up to about 1,000 points. The box will get you about 600. The Battlefleet box will get you about 633 points. But regardless, you know, it's some good models. I enjoyed it. I think these came out close enough for me. I realize they are not exactly like the studio paint job, but I'm happy with them. So, what do you think? How did I do? Did I kind of get that look? Was I able to duplicate it well enough? You know, how horrible are my paint jobs? Seriously, I mean, I'm not going to get much better, but I don't mind hearing tips or tricks of things that are easy for someone like me to do, you know, but may help pop it out a little bit better as far as the looks are concerned. Regardless, comment down below. I'd love to hear from you. Overall, thank you for watching. I do appreciate your time. Don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss any future content. And we will talk to you next time. Thanks for watching.